welcome to the Growth Advantage podcast. I'd like to introduce you today to Lloyd Ripley-Evans, Head of Clinical and People Excellence at corporate wellness software company Plumm. Hi Lloyd, it's lovely to have you on the show.
Hi Rebecca, thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to be here with you today.
I'd love to get started, if it's all right with you, Lloyd, to ask you a bit about the business and the role that you play within it.
So Plumm is we're an HR solution with mental health at the core of what we do, which is, I think, very, very exciting. What we are building is really, we're trying to change the HR space. We're trying to change organizations essentially from the inside out. My role is Head of Clinical and People Excellence. I have a background in psychology as a therapist myself, so working with people and mental health is something I'm extremely passionate about. And I think the product and solutions that we are developing are really trying to sort of shake up and change the HR space, really empowering and enabling individuals and companies to just thrive as they move forward through life.
It sounds fantastic, and obviously, is it quite a new platform? How long have you been running the platform?
Yeah, we are fairly new. So Plumm itself has been around for quite a few years. We started originally as a mental health solution, and over the years, we've seen how the landscape had changed post-pandemic, and we'd seen that mental health, that was what was originally seen as this sort of focus area, was not so much a focus area anymore. And so companies were sort of pulling back and cutting back on the mental health support. What we noticed was that some solutions were not being cut back on, and those were things like your productivity tools and HR. And so we saw a natural sort of progression into the HR space, because mental health and HR is working with our people in organizations. It just seemed like the natural sort of progression for us. And so we evolved to an HR platform, started developing that from the ground up, built it from scratch, which has been incredible for us. And we are now, I think, quite comfortably into our second year as, with this fantastic new offering that we've got.
Great. And what is competitive landscape like? Are there many competitors with this kind of platform out there, or are you quite unique in the space?
So the HR space is an incredibly competitive space. There are so many different platforms and solutions that cater to so many different needs. It's a very interesting space, when you get into it. In terms of our unique positioning, we don't see other providers offering what we do with mental health at the core. With us being in the mental health space for many years before, and now transitioning into the actual space, we feel that we're in a very unique position to understand and support sort of directly within the solutions and platforms with the HR people to really benefit and support their people in their organizations.
Fantastic. And how would you be finding gaining clients and people to sort of use your platform and your HR software at the moment? Is it because you're quite unique the way you angle it from the mental health direction? I guess it's quite popular.
Yes. I think it's quite interesting to see, the world we live in. It doesn't matter what people are buying. We've got so much access to different products and solutions that it's so easy to get information about different products and solutions. And so it's not only, the well-known brands, across the world that are getting business. So what's really been fantastic for us is we put ourselves out there. We advertise in our own way. We really trying to sort of get our name out there from our unique position. And the business that's been coming to us has been fantastic. Lots of interest. I think what people really like is the unique offering. It's that sort of hybrid space, mental health and HR. And not only are we offering HR, but we're offering an all-in-one HR solution, which I think is also one of the big pain points for many HR professionals, is having that segmented and compartmentalized approach to mental health. So people are coming, they seem to be sort of blown away with our offering, very competitive pricing. And I think just the product as a whole is extremely comprehensive, sort of very broad, but also very deep, because we'll go all the way down to supporting individuals on an individual basis as well.
Fantastic. So, and how are you marketing the product? How are you building that presence?
Largely through social media.
Right.
We've been in a very agile space. We've been able to sort of test and trial a number of different approaches from the more traditional marketing approaches and paid media and so on. And what we found is that for us, a lot of things haven't worked, and a lot of things, interesting approaches have worked, generating a lot of interest, a lot of awareness, and a lot of drive to our website and booking demos and so on, primarily through LinkedIn, actually,
Right.
building our presence online through those different spaces. And so I think we've had a very interesting but quite a fun approach to building that brand presence, and we're seeing the benefits of that as well.
I know you sort of touched on there that you've tried a range of things and some things perhaps have not worked as well. What things haven't you found work as well?
Well, I think some of the more traditional approaches to marketing campaigns and so on, but being a startup, we move incredibly quickly. Things change very quickly, which is an incredibly exciting space to be. And what we did find was that some of the more traditional approaches weren't necessarily able to sort of keep pace with us, and maybe weren't as
Right.
agile as we maybe needed them to be. And so we've sort of gone into a space where we've been able to have a little bit more control and direction, and really been able to see what our unique space, what our unique offering is needing, where we get a lot of interest. And then we're able to pivot and jump into that space. And if something changes, we can, we really stay on our toes, and we can pivot and move quite quickly. With some of the more traditional approaches, creating these incredibly in-depth campaigns and so on, as great as they don't quite always work for every client.
The kind of sort of technology to help you with this marketing.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, our team definitely does rely on, using a bit of AI, getting some insights into trends, really kind of looking into the social media space. One thing that I think we're really trying to do is we're seeking to build relationships. That's really what it
Yeah.
is. In order to build relationships, or with relationships and trust, people are more likely to reach out and engage. And the social media space is, that online presence is very important for that. And so we're tapping into that quite significantly. So yeah, our teams are using some insights into the social media space, just to sort of help guide us a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, it's really about relationship building, which is at the core of what we're trying to do.
Definitely, of course. And how are you finding and maintain keeping good quality staff for marketing and sales and that kind of thing at the moment?
You mean sort of internally?
Yes, do you have a sales marketing team or do you outsource?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I want to mention again just the element of relationship. We've been a startup. It's been an interesting space to be in, and startups aren't for everybody. It's a particular relationships that get built and personalities really thrive. I think what we've really found is when you get the right type of people, the right combinations of relationships, things just magically sort of happen. Not magically, we obviously make it happen, but that's where the magic happens. And I think we're in a very, very strong position at the moment where we've really seen that it's so much down to, it's not necessarily the skills, because skills can be taught. It's really about the relationships, the personalities, and building that sense of trust within teams. I think the teams we have and we are building at the moment are incredibly close, which you can see how differently they work compared to maybe some of our teams in the past, where maybe those relationships weren't as so we are primarily focused on the UK. So the bulk of our organizations that we service are UK based. Many of them are global organizations, and so they will have offices throughout Europe, and across the globe, from the US to Australia and so on. So we do have the global presence, but we have been primarily focusing on the UK region. Obviously, from an HR perspective, we understand that there are many region specific sort of compliance requirements and so on. And so we have tended to just focus on the UK for now, with the idea of expanding that in the future as well.
Right. And are there particular sectors that you focus on, or do you work with businesses across a range of sectors?
Yeah, no, we do work sort of across a broad range. I think that's been quite interesting to also see how our clients are quite diverse from that perspective. From the small businesses with just a handful of people across various industries to much larger organizations, enterprise level organizations, again, across different sectors. So I think that's also fantastic to be able to work across those different spaces.
Fantastic. And leading on to your personal role within the business, like you just said, it's obviously really interesting working with companies across a whole range of sectors. What does your sort of typical day look like? What roles do you play, and what takes up most of your time personally within the business?
So my role, as we know, is head of clinical and people excellence, and what that means is that my department oversees all of the clinically related features and functions. So within our offering, we have our clinical offering, which is online video sessions with coaches, counselors, and therapists. And so we manage the relationships with our providers. We oversee all the engagements, any support that's required to support organizations or individuals within their clinical space. We obviously moderate and supervise what happens in that space. We also oversee and manage our AI chat, which is called Emma, which has been trained and built from the ground up to support individuals primarily from a mental health perspective, but it's also grown and evolved to support across, you need to check your goals, your tasks, check your insights into your lead balances and so on. So Emma's evolved quite significantly, but we supervise Emma, we moderate the chats and make sure that is compliant and so forth. We also oversee all of our content development. So all of our L&D content, our courses, our trainings that we offer, as well as all of our client engagement, which is our workshops and our live events and live sessions. So it's really almost everything that's people related, from the clinical space and that support to the sort of AI support elements as well. And then all of the content development, our text-based resources, blogs and articles, and then obviously all of the client. So it's really focused on the individuals and people within organizations, which I'm very passionate about.
Great, that sounds amazing. If there was one thing you could delegate, what would that be?
Delegation. I think speaking about that in the startup spaces is an interesting one because it changes from day to day. I think I'm very lucky to be working with an incredible team at the moment. And so there's a lot of work that's being shared and delegated at present, which is very, very exciting. I think if I had to delegate one thing, I think it might be just some of the admin, because in the day to day, I think we can all relate to that. It's just sometimes some of that admin, which would be great to just delegate to somebody to be able to just perfect.
So, what would you say are the most important metrics for the business currently and over the next 6 to 12 months?
The most important metrics for my space and particularly for my department is really looking at service usage. So looking at the number of sessions booked and completed, seeing how much engagement we have from a clinical perspective. It does also work in different times of the year. So it's a very interesting space because we can adapt and adjust accordingly there. But also from the L&D perspective, looking at the engagement in our courses, what types of courses are being watched, the different categories, are there any trends that we can look into? So I think those are probably the two most important, looking at the service issues from a clinical perspective, and then from an L&D perspective, so the type of content that people are watching and engaging with, because they do highlight and I think it's some trends for us. So I think those would definitely be two of the most important for us. Yeah.
Of course. With regards to, I know we've talked sort of about your social media outreach in that way. What would you say is the most that you're finding is the most successful way of gaining clients for you at the moment? And is there anything that you might be looking to introduce or try going forwards over the next year or so to improve that uptake?
I mentioned it earlier. I think it's really about building relationships, and the best way that anybody's able to build relationships with people they've never met is through, an online presence. So for an organization, building our brand presence online. But I think what we also try to do is help and support our team members to also build their own personal brand presence
Right.
online. Because again, people buy from people, not from businesses. And so people are able to connect and relate, be able to reach out and connect with an individual that they feel they've built a relationship. We find that's very impactful.
Yes.
So that's probably something that we're trying to do sort of more of, as opposed to some of the more traditional approaches.
Great. And where would you like to see the business in, say, 3 years' time? Would you like to have more of a global presence, or is there a number of the type of clients you'd like to be working with? What does that look like for you?
I think the simplest response to that is just exponential growth. We've come into a space, we trying to disrupt the space a little bit. We are coming into a very saturated space as well, and we're really trying to establish ourselves. And I think we're really on a fantastic trajectory to do that. And so, if I had to fast forward 3 to 5 years from now, I think it would be really to be one of the go-to names in the space. If people start talking about HR, we would see ourselves as one of the names that people kind of immediately start gravitating towards, start talking about. So I think really having that brand presence within the space would definitely be one of the goals that we're working towards.
Of course, fantastic. And with your team itself, do you do regular sort of CPD training and development? Is that like an ongoing thing? Obviously, especially with the mental health side of it, I guess that's quite important.
Yeah, so our internal team, we obviously do the ongoing trainings and development. For example, recently there's been the changes with regards to the sexual harassment in the workplace and the different trainings on that. Just one example. And our team is constantly sort of encouraged and required to attend certain trainings and complete certain courses, really just to kind of keep up to date, from a security perspective, IT perspective, from a people management perspective, and so on. So we're constantly, looking to develop our team internally as well, really just to keep everybody up to date with any changes, and not only to sort of tick the box, but also just to make sure that they feel empowered and equipped within their respective spaces as well.
Fantastic. And would you be able to give an overview of sort of all the different kind of things that people could find on your software, on your platform, if they were to sort of consider having a look and wanting to perhaps use it?
Of course, of course. So I'll try to keep this short because we could be here all day if I really start to unpack this. But people are going to come to us for slightly different reasons sometimes. So as I mentioned, Plumm is an all-in-one HR solution. So we really have every feature from your standard people management. We've got your goals, we've got your tasks, one-on-ones, reviews, can help you run anonymous surveys. We've also got things that we've also built from the scratch, from scratch. For example, we've got payroll. So you can also run full payroll, which is incredible, fully integrated into the system. With that, you've got your expenses, invoices, you've got benefits. You can link it to different pension providers. Excitedly working on some additional integrations as well to really just expand the reach of that. We've also got things like whistleblowing, so fully confidential space within the platform where you can report anything that is a bit untoward. You've got things like our ATS as well, also built from the ground up, which is an incredible platform at the moment. with so much functionality built into it. Honestly, it's one of my favorites. I've been involved in that quite a lot. And then just sort of a lot of the other general admin support for your HR people, where you can onboard, offboard, and everything in between, create your templates, use those templates across the different spaces. In addition to that, we've obviously also got all the wellbeing features and functionality. So you've got your online coaching and therapy. We've got a huge library of meditations, of soundscapes. We've got over 500 courses on our platform. So really, we've got kind of end-to-end support. You name it, we've got it. And if we don't have it, we build it, which is really, really exciting.
That sounds like an amazing platform, a real full package there. It sounds very exciting, and I hope that you continue to grow and people become more aware of what you're offering, because it really sounds an amazing platform. And is there anything else, finally, Lloyd, that you'd like to share with us about your business, where people can find you, any events that you might be having coming up, or anything else that you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, I think just that I think we're not just building a platform. We're really trying to sort of build and shape a sort of a people first philosophy, starting with ourselves. We've always got to do it ourselves and understand it internally. But we're really trying to make a difference, a positive difference in the world, in organizations. So I just really want to sort of emphasize that. And where can people find us? Our website is heyplum.com. You can find us there. We do have some events that we run with some of our channel partners. We do have monthly live events, so you can keep an eye out on LinkedIn as well for our live events. Those are hosted, and we're starting to stream those live on LinkedIn as well. So you can join the conversation. So please do come in and start a conversation with us. So yeah, LinkedIn. Join us on our website, reach out to us, and if you'd like to have a chat, just let us know, and we can arrange time to connect.
Thanks for that, Lloyd. It's really interesting. I'm sure many people want to go and have a look at that. I'll be looking out for the live events on LinkedIn as well. That sounds really good. And thank you ever so much for your time today and for sharing your insights about the business. It's been really great to hear about it, and I wish you all the best for the future.